Yes, I'm starting. All right, welcome everyone. We're glad to be back on this Sunday, 14th of March, 2021. It's been great conversation since beginning of February around relationships. And we're so glad for many of you that have been joining us and very active conversations on our Facebook page and other social media platforms. But this is Simon Bevy, and this is Sober Sunday, stimulating conversations with me around different topics. And today I'm so excited about our topic. We're going to be talking about conflict resolution in marriage and relationships. We're going to be talking about how to admit that conflicts will happen, but how to transform those conflicts to become useful for us, that becomes waves on which we ride so that we become better for it. Well, I just want to invite you to tell your friends we are on. Invite them, start watch parties. I can see many of you have joined in already, but start watch parties and let your friends be involved. Those who are married, those who are not married, those who were married, anyone is welcome. This is for everyone. The differing relationships in which we have conflict, but today we'll focus a lot more on more intimate relationships when you're dating, when you're married, when you're very close to someone else. Again, karibu everyone, welcome. So I want to introduce my panelists today. I'm glad to have two couples that are joining us. And let me start with the ones who have not been here before. Let me start with Evelyn and Raymond Motura. We have met them in a few other fora. They are passionate about family. They run some program on family and training on marriage. They do a lot around this topic. And of course, they've been married for a while. So I think their perspective and their own stories will be very useful for this conversation. So Evelyn and Raymond, let me give you a chance just to say more about yourselves and what you do. And how long you've been married before we begin.
Thank you, Pastor Baby, and good evening to everyone listening in. So yes, Raymond and Evelyn here. We'll be married 20 years in a month. And we have 4 children, 4 teens actually. Our youngest is 14 and our eldest is 19. So 19, 18, well, to be 19, to be 18 in this month of March, and then to be 17 in the month of May, and then the 14th already became a 14th in March. So we run a program for family development out of Strathmore University, and we've been doing this actually all our life since 2001 when we got married. And yeah, so Evelyn, you want to say something?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, it's clear she's a woman of few words. We're going to hear a lot of wisdom during this conversation, but welcome. And of course, we appreciate the work you've been doing at the university and in many other fora where we have interacted in family policy. You've been very instrumental in the writing of a family policy, national family policy in this country. And now we are together in a team where we are doing something on parenting for the nation. So glad to have you here. Then my pastors and friends here and coaches, relationship coaches. This is Dawn and Cynthia. Please go ahead and say hi to us, introduce yourselves. Pastor Cynthia has been here before. We had a good conversation. I think, Dawn, you were not with her that time. So we're glad that the two of you are here. So please go ahead and say a bit more about yourselves.
Right. I'm Cynthia Waboyotieno, and he will say his name.
I'm Don Otieno.
And we are marriage and relationship coaches. We are passionate about building marriages that not only believe that they can just survive through the storms of life, but thrive, getting the skills and the tools that will help them thrive throughout their marriage experience. We enjoy the spectrum. I like what Raymond said, that they have been doing this ever since they got married. And I'm connecting with that because we started doing this as soon as we got married. We've only been married for 12 years. Hallelujah. And we have children, 2 daughters. We will try and keep up with you guys. The eldest is 10. The youngest is 9. Okay, they're both turning 9 and 10 this year. So we're really feeling very pretty.
Wow, yeah, 12 years. That's a long time for many people. So at least you've had a few conflicts in those 12 years. Yeah, that makes me feel pretty old, Raymond, because I've been married for, it's going to be 24 years later this year.
Wow,
And,
wow.
Yeah, it's been a journey. So twice as long as Dawn and Cynthia. But yeah, we have learned a lot in terms of mistakes we have made and some successes we have had. It's been a learning experience. I think relationships are a great experience for someone to learn. Those who are open to learn, they get to learn what you should never do. I know some things I should never try again if I want to stay alive. And some other things I know I want to keep doing in the relationship. So it's a journey. Now, we're talking about conflict resolution. We get into conflicts. I think some people get into conflict immediately. You know, they begin to know each other. Others when they get married, others later after marriage. I've known people who had huge conflicts during their honeymoon. Some of them who quit the honeymoon, you know, one person left and the other followed later. So these conflicts start somewhere. As long as people begin to come together, there's going to be conflicts. It's a fact of life. As long as two people who become coming to close relationship, there's going to be conflict. So let me start with you, Raymond. What are some of the causes of conflict? Why do people who like each other so much begin then to fight one another?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I think one of the, I mean, it's taken me a couple of years to realize this, but one of the most interesting things that happens in people who get married is that, number one, usually you will get people who get married are normally they attract to the opposite person. Yeah? So you're both opposites, yes, but also you are attracted to either an opposite temperament, or you are attracted to somebody who is a bit different from you. So that is one thing. And then secondly, of course, we are different. We are men and women, and we are different. So these two realities are very interesting before marriage because they're very exciting and they create a flavor before, and you find somebody who is not exactly like you and they fill you up somehow. But they're the very reason for conflicts in marriage. Because now when you're in marriage for some, well, I mean, you want to live a life and you will be able to see the difference a bit more clearly. You'll keep seeing that, she does this or he does this. I don't like the way it is done. I don't like the way it is said. Or the very thing that you got attracted to, in terms of, how they deal with themselves. When now you're in the world of living together day to day, you find that sometimes it is what makes you annoyed. So this is one of the sources, and I think just after the 20 years and after speaking to many couples and trying to teach, you realize that it is something that is very easy to forget. That we are different.
That's true.
So I think as a beginning, that's what I would say. And out of it, there are all manner of conflicts come about. Thank you. Evelyn, you want to add?
I like it. I like it. In fact, I want to ask Evelyn something. Because I like what you said. Opposites attract, but eventually attack each other. You begin by feeling, oh, this is a person. And I know that has happened with me and my wife. One of the things that attracted me to her, because before people, I'm a little quieter. But when I need to speak, then I speak. But in the midst of people are talking in a small group, I tend to hold back. But one of the things I liked about Sophia is that she would begin conversations, really talk and say, wow, this is interesting. I wouldn't do that, but I like that. So I was really enjoying that. But then I get married and we go to groups and she's talking. I'm thinking she needs to keep quiet. Why can't she just be like me? So it was attractive before we got married. But soon after marriage, it wasn't as funny as I thought before. It began to annoy me, It's because I now wanted her to become more like me. So, Evelyn, let me ask you, what is one thing you really liked in Raymond that became very annoying eventually?
Wow. Wow, that is a very surprise question. Wow, I'd really have to scratch my mind to think about it. Maybe you give me a few minutes.
Okay, we're going to get back to you. Remember something that you really liked when you were dating him, and later you began to think, this is not even good. What was I thinking? But Cynthia and Dawn, I like what Raymond said, that we are different, and that's the source of conflict, that we are not the same. We don't think the same because we are men and women. So that in itself is a big difference. And of course, we have different personalities or temperaments. And then also we come from different backgrounds. Whatever we saw in our places of origin will inform the way we approach conflict. But Cynthia, I think your temperaments are pretty different. Could you speak into that, and how has that caused conflict, if at all?
Oh, wow. I could write a book, Pastor Simon. I could write a book. I hope there's immunity after this. Well, I think I like what Raymond has said, is that we are different. And the beauty is, when we are first dating, that is the most attractive thing that draws you to that person. It draws you because it's different, it's not you. And it becomes the magnet that pulls you to that person. So for me, Don was exactly the opposite of what I had dated before. He was the quieter, the calmer, the calm within this, a storm. And so it's the difference. It was really, really significant for the two of us. I'm louder, you can tell. I tend to have an opinion, and I will make sure everybody knows it. Don is a calmer person. He's a easygoing, que sera kind of guy, And so in the beginning, that is attractive. but later on you want to harakisha him. You know, you better have, today we better move on, you know, and so that can become a place of conflict. Or even he's very calculated. I am the person who wants to, you know, you know, when we talk about ploti baguta, you know, we need to buy a plot from Ruaka, and you hear these are deals happening. We need to, and Don is like, no, you know him, his glass is half empty. Mine is half full. Let's do this, baby. Let's get it done. And you can imagine the type of conflict that can brew between the two of us if we don't begin to understand who we really are. And if we don't understand that difference, then it becomes the place of contention. It becomes a place of unmet expectations. If we have not discussed that in the past, if we have not had any awareness, self-awareness of who we are when we're coming into the relationship, Yani, things can be.
Well, I like what you're saying. Dawn, can you confirm that?
Bring it on.
It is confirmed. Seriously, she's not she's not gone out of line even a bit. I think personality has been very different. I think I'll ride on yours actually also, whereby you mentioned that you're the chilled one. We could walk into a function, and I would rather sit behind and not be known, but Cynthia wants the mic for the event. You know, and she's not the speaker, so she could be out there, whereas I'm the one who wants to be in the background. Yeah, so definitely personality plays a big role, the temperaments plays a big role in causing conflict. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Evelyn, we were to get back to you. Something that was very attractive.
I was actually hoping you'd forget and move to the next because I am very forgetful myself, and Ray is not forgetful, which was very attractive, of course, when we were dating. But now he gets to remind me all the time the things that I forget, you know. I really don't know that all the time. Like, okay, I know I'm forgetful, but you know, could you lay off it for a while? And yeah, so it was very nice when we were dating. But now I wish he'd be a bit forgetful. Maybe it's going to come with age. It's one of those things I'm praying for, that they may come with age.
Isn't this so interesting, Ray, that we always want people to become like us. You know, you appreciate who they are, but later you want them to be like you, to reason the way you'd reason, to think the way you would think, to hold back the way you would hold back. Is it that sometimes we just don't accept each other for who we are? That yes, we were attracted, but now we get into the marriage or relationship, and now you begin to want to turn the other person to become like you because you think you're the best, huh?
And I think the thing is, one has to be aware that the fact that you are living together and the fact that you could say somehow you're all available to one another, one can, you know, take advantage and not appreciate the other for who they are, because you kind of think you always have a way to fix it, or you will look for another time to fix it. But and this eventually translates to the children as well, because you will see the gaps, your gaps, sometimes your gaps in your children, and sometimes your children very similar to you, and you get impatient to wanting to fix it for them. You know, if he can be, I know this is among my weaknesses. Can it be fixed right now? So So then what one has to try and do, and I think generally, when you're in a kind of a rat race, moving up and down, taking people to school, and eventually you have to look for the shirigi for the house, you can lose patience with one another. Yet, what is essential is to create family life in such a way that you have pockets of when you can have conversations. Because one of the reasons why people get a bit worked up is precisely because you don't have that avenue. You can see, I'm getting tired of this, I am bored of this, but you don't have an avenue because the way you've created family life, there are no moments to soberly, that we call this program Sober Sunday. We don't have a moment to be sober to articulate what you're going through. So so I think the thing is we can take advantage. We can not be aware that we need to create family life to help, to assist us to engage. Because when you're engaging, when you're different, when you're engaging about an issue that you think is a thorn in your life as a couple or in your children, then eventually you will see this play of the differences coming in, because you'll be able to see, oh, you see, actually I hadn't looked at it that way. And that way you're able to solve your own problems and the problems of the family. So I don't know whether because I can be a philosopher also. So
well, I hear like there's a little bit of background noise. I don't know whether it's from your side or Dawn's side. I don't know that any of you have your phone on the page and with some sound, but there's a bit of background noise.
Okay. We only have this on, so I don't know.
Okay.
Dom, do you have the Facebook on as well?
I have it on, but it's on mute.
Okay, no problem. I think I was just hearing some background noise. I hope. Yeah, someone was saying they're not hearing us very well, but we'll continue. I think it's getting better. But I like what you're saying, that sometimes we want to fix it. And part of it is gender differences. I think men are very into let's fix the thing and just move on. But generally, ladies are more of, do you understand me even? Are you hearing where I'm coming from? But the man is thinking, okay, let's solve it. I know what you're saying. What is the solution? Evelyn, do you find it that way? This philosopher just wants to solve your problems instead of listening to you.
Well, of course. Because also by temperament, I think also just the men tend to be action-oriented. For us women, I think it's more about venting and just exhaling, yeah, like we call it. And once you've been listened to and somebody's listening to you, not listening to respond, but listening to understand, then you're good, it's okay. You sort out the problems. Of course, you know the solutions. You just wanted someone to feel with you. So yes, sometimes yes, men can be like, okay, what is the solution to this problem? And maybe it's not just the solution.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. I hear you. And I know Dawn and Cynthia, you teach, you do Doa sometimes, and you get to teach couples. And in the Doa program, Pastors Moridi and Carol talk about the two kinds of personalities when it comes to conflict resolution. They are the fighters, and then they are the runners. There are those who run away and they don't want to confront it, and there are those who say, bring it on, let's do this. It's like they are seeking you out to bring the conflict. From the way I see Raymond smiling, I can tell which one he is. But the runners are the ones who don't want to deal with this. They talk about the tortoise, you just withdraw. When there's conflict, you pull away. You don't want to you don't even want to bring it up. You just want peace. You don't want to face this. The confrontation is just a lot of work. And there's the ostrich one, the one who denies it and just puts their head into the sand and pretends everything is okay and keeps talking as if nothing went wrong and moving on with life. And there's the owl that analyzes and wants to bring philosophical, logical facts to try and explain why this and that happened. Evelyn, you're feeling me. So those three types, they tend to be avoiding conflict, either through withdrawing or denying or analyzing. Cynthia, you've dealt with many couples. Do you see a lot of these, and which one of those personalities are you?
Please take a wild guess. Let me tell you something. When it comes to runners and fighters, I find it very fascinating because I cannot even begin to imagine myself run from confrontation. I want to be in the middle of the action. If I'm not the one creating it, no problem creating the action. But I also want to be the one, so many times, like if there's something that is happening in the streets and we are walking with Dawn, I want to see what is happening in the middle of that, because for me, it's fascinating. So now, as far as we are concerned, I am not a runner. I will not avoid conflict. I think it's an opportunity for me to learn about myself and to try and win. I am a gorilla. I'm a fighter gorilla. And for me, conflict is opportunity for me to win. It is an opportunity for me to get there, get ahead. And my dear beloved here,
pray for me.
He's a runner. And he's an ostrich. And to make matters worse, and that in the beginning of our relationship, as an ostrich, he would use humor, as part of avoiding the heat of the moment. And it would be very, very, very heated. Let me leave it there.
I can imagine that, and I sort of expected that you'd be the fighter, and that Don will be the runner. And so you're trying to pull his head out of the sand to see the conflict.
Let's get this doing. And for me, it's not confrontation. For me, is not about how loud I'm going to get or how belligerent. And so sometimes people forget that conflict does not mean that we're going to be belligerent or we're going to be loudly obnoxious. It's that, okay, the conflict has presented itself. Do we buy the bread that is with the nuts or without the one with nuts? Why can't we buy the one with nuts? And for him, he's like, you know what? No worrying about cocoa growing in Ghana. If you want the one with nuts, no, we need an opinion from you, We can go on for the next 1 hour if we allow it. So
I should find you in the supermarket without argument. I'm coming to you, Dawn. So she's a fighter, and just for the rest, when it comes to fighting, there are three personalities, Cynthia. We have the gorilla, which is what you are referring to. Gorilla is the one who fights to win. So when they get into an argument, to them, it's great when they win, when they feel like I won. I gave my opinion, and it's, but they don't want to win in a hurry. They don't want no opposition. They want at least to feel like they fought until they won. So that's a gorilla. And then we have the skunk. And the skunk is a retaliator, the one who is going to make things really look bad, we're going to make things really look bad so that every time there's a conflict, we are trying to turn it around to make sure they attack you. And so you begin a conversation, you begin by talking about, so why did you do that? And then by the end of it, they make you look like you're the one who is wrong because of what you did yesterday. They bring other things that were not even in the conversation. but it's because they want to fight back. Yeah, they don't want to admit they have done something now. They want to say why yesterday you did this, and now it has they have done this because you did this yesterday. Those are the skunks. And then lastly, there are the hedgehogs. And the hedgehogs are defenders. They're always defending themselves, playing the defense. They're always like saying, it's not me. They would rather just say, I have nothing to do with it. So they're always in the defensive. But those three are the fighting, the fighting personalities. Dawn, so you're dealing with someone who likes to play the gorilla and really likes to win. And you want to be the ostrich. How does this play out usually? Is it easy for you, especially as a man?
My goodness, please continue praying for me. I actually have a real life experience. What normally happens is I get frustrated by the Matatu guys, how they operate. But in my head, I think, okay, do I want to go through all this with the Matatu guy and get to my destination angry and wild? So I would move, dodge, and continue my journey. But my dear gorilla wife, my dear gorilla wife will roll down her window and almost want to get into the matatu. So I have developed a mechanism of thank God for central lock in the car, because as soon as I get to boot, I hoot at the matatu and hit the lock button because I know the reaction that is coming. And I keep asking her, why do you want to get blood pressure or get angry? Why wants to change your mood in 1 second? And change our conversation to the rest of the journey because of this one guy. So
that's my biggest pet peeve is being by a matatu. And we are driving nicely on Mombasa Road. We have no issues, no problems in our lives until a matatu cuts us. And that can become conflict for us. I want to roll down the window and have an opinion and an expression. But if it's like, you know what, babe, this does not change cocoa growing in Ghana. Our journey. And for me, in my head, no, it has nothing to do with it's how we feel. They need to know. And you can imagine, even after we've passed that matatu, we will have a very vibrant conversation. And for us, it's interesting. Maybe in your mind, I wonder what you go through.
No. I think before I would actually have the opinion of they should know they did wrong. But then what that would do is it would make me angry for the rest of the journey and change my mood and everything. So I guess I stopped thinking that way, but instead I would think, what is the rest of the day going to look like? So that would
I hear you. I hear you, Dawn, yeah? I hear you so well, because I think in our different personalities, we have a very logical argument. For Cynthia, she's thinking this person should know the truth so that the truth will set them free.
Hallelujah. There has to be a truth teller.
But for Dawn, you're thinking, peace is more important than the truth. Yeah, they should know the truth quietly. I don't have to tell them. If they don't know the truth, it's up to them. Evelyn, are you the fighter or are you the avoider?
Wow, I actually don't know. Maybe Ray would tell us better. I think it depends on the matter at hand. And yes, I can be quite a fighter, contrary to what I may appear to be. And yes, I really feel sick, because there are sometimes you feel you need to give your opinion to someone, very strongly because you might be the only person who will tell them things, you know.
Amen.
So, because sometimes the gentlemen are very gentle men.
Yeah.
The rest also is a lady, so they keep off. So at least woman to woman, we can tell it as it is. And, have a nice, good day after that.
I think there is an interesting thing just to comment there. I mean, she says she's not a natural fighter, but I think what I can note here is that also from a background point of view, you can also, you could say, come up with a new way of dealing with things. Yes, it's true your personality is, you know, the closed one, but I mean, looking at her and her father, I mean, her father was very clear on articulating things, so which she has come with in the marriage. It's very clear. I mean, you have to be clear, with things, and let us solve the issues and put all the cards on the table. Yeah. So, and then contrary to what you may think, I think you may think like I'm a fighter, but my background also was those ones of, okay, let us not rock the bottom here. Let us not fight. So sometimes I find that I go into the, I don't know if it's the ostrich or the skunk actually. Yeah. Because that is what I saw a lot. So a bit of the background also makes a difference in how we deal. And therefore it's like when you're there in the moment of conflict, you are trying to catch up with, okay, how do I know how this was solved? And immediately you go back to your background and you saw it was solved like this. So you pick that up because that's the only thing you know, and then you run with it. So I think it's also very important to be aware of how your background was, how things were solved, because you may actually end up hanging on to that, and sometimes it's not good or it's not been applied properly. Well, for Evelyn, it's positive. For me, I have to work on it. Thank you.
Well, this is very interesting. Well, I think generally for me, like you, Raymond, I'm more the diplomatic one. Sophie can be a fighter, but more of a philosophical fighter. I'm trying to see where she belongs. Maybe more of a hedgehog or something close to that. I think I am more the tortoise. You know, I will pull my neck out and, you know, sometimes be able to confront some things. And then when it gets hot, I just say, let me go to prayer, and then I withdraw.
I think we share that, Simon.
Yeah.
He's
also.
It's a tortoise, actually.
It's a tortoise, actually.
Oh, he's a tortoise. Yeah. Because you just think, hey, your head is going to be knocked here, so you withdraw a little bit. You wait for the right time, and I think you're true, Raymond. What you're saying is true. Sometimes it's what you saw. I think I saw that in our home. I saw that we scattered around conflict. Nobody wanted to bring it out. You know it's there, but you don't want to talk about it because it doesn't look good and it's going to be ugly. And I found that I have had to train myself to confront. For me, it's been a training. I've had to train myself, and I should tell myself, you need to talk about this. I remember early in the marriage, I had to go to the toilet and rehearse what I'm about to say. So that when I come out, then I'm able to say it, because naturally I would not say it. I would think it, but not say it. Because I don't want to hurt this person, and I don't want them to feel bad. You know, I don't want to rock the boat. But then I got to realize, you know, sometimes I would be pushed to a place where I have to confront it. So I began to realize, okay, it's not that bad when you confront. So I think eventually the transformation begins to happen when you realize, actually, it's not about what is right or what is wrong. It's about how do we deal with the conflict. So almost beginning to have your own way of dealing with the conflict. Let me ask you, Evelyn, after the to and fro and the differences in background and personality, is there something you have learned together and agreed? And maybe you have told Raymond, you know, when there's a conflict, this is what you shouldn't do. This is what we should do. You know, if you want things to go well, this is the compromise place.
Yes, I guess so. But although, of course, we talk about compromise in marriage, because like we said earlier, what attracts us to our spouses is initially the differences between us. So to try and embrace those differences, one thing that I remember when we were learning about temperaments and character, I remember somebody saying that God gives you the temperament you need to fulfill the specific mission he has given you on earth. So there is no good or bad temperament. It's objective. So who we are is, that's how God equipped us for what he wants us to do. So with that in mind, then I think there is something, in a sense, there is no absolute correct or absolute wrong way of sometimes handling these things. I guess each situation deserves its own way of looking at things, and compromise comes in there. So it's all right. It's all right. The anger can get very hot sometimes, but also with time you realize that, look, I'm just angry. It won't make sense to do anything right now. Let the anger, let the hot temper cool down first. Maybe have a hot cup of tea, because they say dawa ya moto ni moto. You have enough to try and bring perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I like it.
If I could just chip in there, Simon. So what we have to do is to try and look for moments to talk. So all throughout the time we were raising kids, we tried to have a kind of a family program, a family timetable that got the kids asleep at a particular time, so that we could always get our 8 to 9 moment. Yeah, and it has always been like that. To date, we have an 8 to 9 moment. Well, nowadays I see people reading at night, and they are becoming very different species, our children. But for the longest time, we did an 8 to 9. Every week we try to go out on a day. We will have a breakfast and talk. And of course, you know, sometimes you because we are different precisely. As a man, I could be thinking, look, there's really no issue, you know, and everything has been running okay until you go to the breakfast and she says, you know, there's something I have been wanting to talk to you about. Okay, and you know, eventually when you're told the issue, you say, okay, but that's okay, in your mind, it's really not an issue, but it's an issue. She's been carrying it on. So to have those moments when we can talk and talk, in our anniversary, we take a day off, just spend the time together, just to be able to talk and have a moment to explain this, that, the other. So it's like a way of anticipating the conflict that could have happened, so that then you're able to deal with some of this issue.
Excellent. I like that. That's one of the ways to begin to deal with this. Have a time to talk. Have a time to talk. And for those of you with us, very good comments here. I can see, you know, some people saying they're fighters, others are runners. Maurice Onyango says, I'm the fighter. Let's sort it out to the logical conclusion right now, but be gentle too. Mutindi Kakuti says, Pastor Cynthia, that is so me. With the matatu and other drivers who drive rogue on the roads. I roll down my window and get a word in. You know, and funny thing, I get over it pretty fast and move on with my day. That's interesting, because I think for many fighters, it's getting it off your chest so that you feel better. Just say, I don't want to carry this. But it's so interesting for those who are not fighters. You should hold on to it. You know, don't let it out. Don't let it out, because now it becomes another person's problem. I remember one of the conversations we used to have with my good wife is that I would say, you know, don't send me a text in the morning and tell me we need to talk about something. That's spoiling my day. And she said, no, I wanted it off my chest. I'm saying, keep it to your chest until later. But for her, I just wanted to get it out. And me, I'm thinking, no, you're getting it out as completely messed me up. So we had to agree, okay, this is how we handle this. Don't send a text early in the morning. Do it after lunch later when I have dealt with the issues of life. And let's talk later. So we had to look for something that works for all of us. Or maybe I've traveled and I come in the airport in those early days of our marriage, and she immediately wants to tell me what is going on, which is not right. And I'm thinking, tell me after 3 days. I need 3 days to settle in, know whether the country is still there. So you have to understand your dance, you know, both of you. What is it that will work for both of you so that one doesn't do something because I want to get it off, and now it kills the other person, or the other one keeps so quiet. For her, she had to tell me, now you keep quiet and you're not telling me when you're ready to talk. When are you coming out of your shell? And me, I'm saying, okay, let's compromise. I'll not take 3 days, I'll take 3 hours. I'll say, okay, that's fair, I'll wait. I will be burning and wanting to get it off my chest for 3 hours, not 3 days. So we had to compromise and look for a way of getting to talk. Yeah, so anyway, let me come to you, David and Cynthia. What are some of the ways, you know, we talk about runners. They're always afraid that they will lose the relationships. That's why they don't confront it, or they'll get hurt or hurt someone else, or they will look mean when they talk. So they don't want to talk to the Matatu guy. The Matatu guy may be a member of the church and think, this guy is so mean. Why is he telling me that? But for fighters, you know, they're just thinking, I don't want to lose control. I want to be in control. I want to make sure that these people hear my opinion. You don't want to be treated unfairly, so you want to make sure they know that they shouldn't treat you unfairly. And you don't want to look weak, like you can be tossed to and fro. You know, so you're fearing. Many times we react out of our fears. Cynthia, is that true?
Very true. And once you see, these are things that you do not see in your formative years. You do not recognize this. And I usually say that marriage is the mirror that shows your true identity. It actually, you're able to, through marriage and through your spouse, you get to confront your fears, you confront your weaknesses, he's my mirror. And until I'm able to recognize that the reason why I tend to do this particular behavior is because I don't want to lose control. In my mind, it never would have dawned on me that this is my choleric nature, my idea that I want to still be in control, I want to be in charge. And if we do not get into that spectrum where we trust each other with the feedback that is going to come forth from him being able to give me the feedback that once we did that Matatu encounter, that babe, this is what I feel is your greatest fear. And me wanting to actually hear it and receive it and not now make it a new issue with him, because it can become a new issue. We move from the Matatu driver to him very easily. But now when we can be able to have a foundation of trust, mutual understanding, and being able to hear each other, then it becomes a safer ground for us to begin to thrive. It doesn't mean that we are now going to be a switch and change. cut me tomorrow morning. However much I'm filled with the Holy Ghost, tongue speaking, loving Jesus, it will take me a second or two before I have to think, oh my goodness, was there a congregant in the matatu? God, that door will consistently lock that window, but it's something that I am very much aware about.
Yeah. I like it. So being aware of what is driving you, because we're all broken in many ways. And so we are driven by fears or by messages we got when we were young. For example, if someone was bullied when they are young, then they never want to lose control because that says to them someone is bullying them. And so they are reacting out of what the message they got when they are young. So self-awareness is important, but you're also saying, listen to each other. Listen to each other. Let your spouse talk to you, or your close friend, if you're not married, let your close friend talk to you and say, when you make that noise, this is what is coming through. Girl, you need to consider what is going on. Or man, you need to consider what's going on. Dawn, before you speak, there's this question on Facebook. They're asking, there's this scenario where this is Duncan Juma is asking, there's this scenario where you are accused of having done something, then you agree and apologize. Then my wife says I apologize too soon. and she needed to quarrel for a little bit longer. Is that even normal? And do men experience that? Don.
I think for the runners, we do experience that every day. Because I think the apology comes out with a sense of, let this not go beyond here. I'm sorry to let this end here, and you expect that. But the fighter will see, no, that is too soon. It can't be that easy for you. So I think they want the back and forth. Even though there's no, even though you're not actually hearing what your spouse was saying, the reasons, or I think there's more of the back and forth that seems to be an interesting factor for the fighter. The fact that it went on for a bit, I think they still come out satisfied as long as it ran for a while. But that quick that one, they feel they have been won.
Fighters don't want quick victory.
No, because that's not a fight.
Evelyn, is that true for you? Do you sometimes tell him, no, let's talk a little bit more. Don't stop this. Let's keep going.
Yeah, like he says, you really want to get the point home. Ili sirudiwe. Because yes, you want the apology, but also to explain how it you look at it, how it impacts on you, so that in future any recurrence is discouraged.
Wow, I hear you. I hear you. Let's say Colleen Kerubo, and then I'll come to you, Raymond. Says mpaka hiyo kitu yote itoke kwa system. They just want to talk until the whole thing is out of the system. We go over things over and over and over and over again until the emotion attached to it is processed and no longer elicits the feeling. So, Raymond, you know what I feel many times in this conflict resolution? We are selfish. We think about ourselves and not about the other person.
Yeah.
So you know that, it's what you're feeling, so you want to deal with it, but you're not thinking, how is this going to go down with the other person? So it's like many times we don't think the other person, we think us, because we feel my right has been infringed. It's about my right, it's about me. And so you fight for me. And in the process, then you don't consider the other person. And I think what you're saying, Raymond, and I want to just hear your opinion and other, wisdom in conflict transformation, then we need to listen to the other person and realize it's not just about you being right, it's about the relationship becoming better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if one is able to understand when we are that really we are very different, and that we got into the marriage with that reality of being different, then this selfish issue can be dealt with. Because you see, when you're selfish, it means you're not ready to be in the other person's shoes. And even when you're looking at the issue that is at the conflict as a conflict, what you're doing is you're analyzing it with your lenses and not ready to enter into the other person's shoes. So the fact that we are different means that, among other things, it's important to talk about it. Now, of course, one of the challenges we have today is that these moments to talk about things is very scarce. So, of course, you come up with something, you eat in the morning, you probably have a fight, or in the evening you're thinking, oh, tomorrow I have to wake up at this time. So sometimes even the scarcity of time or the possibility of giving it time, in the rat race that we are in, doesn't give us the opportunity to say, look, wait a minute, why don't I give this a chance? Let us talk about it. Yeah. One of the things she used to always say is, let's not sleep with a fight, which is sometimes very difficult. And being tortoise, we want to be there precisely in the tortoise form. So let us sleep. Then tomorrow I wake up and disappear and then continue with other things. Yeah. So of course you know that it's hurting her being a woman with everything in the mind. Nothing is, as the lady has said there, lazima itoke kwa system. So if it is not going to talk in the system, there is no way there will be happiness in that home. And as men, I think we need to remember that. Yeah, for a woman's world, everything is connected to everything, and until something is removed, however small or tiny it may appear to us, then there is no peace, and we have not really put ourselves into the shoes of the other. I hope this helps.
I hear. Yeah, that helps. And, as we continue, those of you who have joined us, thank you. There's so much laughter and good comments on the Facebook page. But just want to remind you that we have some programs that we do for Transform Nations. We have Man Enough. In fact, we just did a graduation a few hours ago. We had some men who are graduating, and it was just exciting to hear the stories of change. And in case you want to join in that program, feel free to sign up. And then we have EZA, which is a women version. It's starting this week. There's one going on. They'll be graduating next weekend, but there's another one starting in case you are interested. And the different other programs. The Boys to Men mentoring program for the holiday is also coming up. So on the Facebook page, the guys who are there will put in the details, and keep checking on our pages for the details of the programs. And Cynthia, I know there's an event coming up, and I'm going to ask you in a short moment just to talk about it. But before I leave Evelyn, then come to Cynthia and Dawn. I think, Raymond, you have talked about timing, just making sure, okay, it may not be solved, when the Bible says, be angry, but do not sin, and don't let the sun go down on it. I don't think it means literally the sun, like the 12 hours of the day. But it means, I'm talking as a runner. It means as soon as is practically possible. And sometimes that may be a week later. But as soon as you can, you need to deal with this. So that it doesn't continue to affect things. But also we are saying, the truth needs to be said, but said with grace. So Evelyn, as a fighter, do you sometimes feel like you say the truth, more truth, and very little grace? Because I think many times in conflict is a balance of the two. We need to say the truth, but we need to be gracious. Runners want more grace and very little truth, even. Fighters want too much truth, but little grace. But I think we just need to balance both of them. Evelyn.
Yeah. Now you see, Pastor Simon, sometimes in the Bible, there are things that are meant to be taken literally, quite a number actually. So when they say the sun should not go down on your anger, they literally mean that, yeah. Before the end of the day. Okay. So
I hear you.
What I think is that when one has had, of course, I think resolving matters when one is angry doesn't help anyone at all, neither the fighter, nor the runner, nor anybody. So I think it's definitely true to at least calm down the temper, to ward off that temper, and then one is able to factually, objectively bring out their issues. So, and I guess also when you breathe in, breathe out, then you can hopefully get closer to that perfect blend of truth and graciousness, as opposed to just, unleashing all the anger and all that. So that's what I have found. I have seen, also with the experiences of the couples we have worked with, it's just not trying to discuss things when you're so annoyed. So is to find what it is, what the thing that cools you down, that wards off that anger. And then when one is feeling a bit better, then you're able to have a decent conversation and talk about it.
I hear you. Very, very good point. Yeah.
May I add something as a fighter? I really like what Evelyn has said, and I just wanted to add that creating the environment, especially because as a fighter, you can create an environment that can become hostile for the runner to be able to for it to become a safe landing of feedback and information. So it's very important that once you're aware that as a fighter, that your environment has to be conducive. You cannot you cannot become a bed of thorns and expect that the information or the feedback that is going to come is going to be landing on a soft landing. So it's very important. Are you creating the environment within your relationship that even when you're giving this feedback, it's actually going to safely land? And then the second thing for me, which is very important, that I have had to learn in the 12 years, is creating boundaries. We created safety nets within us that makes it safe for both of us to be able to communicate, so that then we can feel that our environment is secure, we feel safe, we feel that we can speak without feeling that we are not attacking the person, but attacking the issues. And that's really hard, because once we get used to one another, you can say, I don't even like the way you look when you say this. But that removing yourself from the real issue, which is your socks are always on the floor instead of and this is how it's affecting our relationship. You need to be able to create boundaries, safe boundaries, and an environment that becomes conducive.
Yeah, I like it. I like what you're saying. Fight fair. Be able to bring up the issue, but don't call the person names. Don't term them. Don't call. Conclude that they will never change. Don't call them names. Instead of saying, how can we make sure these socks are not on the floor all the time? Cynthia, the way you say that, it sounded like something you have experienced before. But so being able to say, how do we handle the socks issue? Not beginning to say, what kind of man are you that you need socks? That is now personal. That's personal attack.
That's a personal attack.
Yes, so don't attack the person, attack the issue. You know,
Yes.
talk about the issue and how it can be solved. Don't attack the person. And so I think there are many points we are making here about good conflict resolution, because we're also saying understand your triggers. You can feel when you're getting angry and conflict is arising. Understand your triggers and then know how to manage your feelings, your emotions, so that you don't get out of control. Because when you're fully taken over by your emotions, when you're very angry, for example, you will say something that is not logical. And later you say, how did I say that? And you know, once it comes out of your mouth, it comes out of your mouth. And even when you apologize, you can't fully take it back. You know, it's still out and it has its harm. So just understanding how to manage yourself when you're angry, when you're fearful, when you feel cornered, know how to manage yourself so that you don't then destroy the relationship because of what you say. So Dom, speak more for us. Speak more for us, sometimes the runners. What are some of the ways that it really works for us to deal with conflict? What is something that has worked for you in the marriage?
I think I can bring up two maybe. I think forgiveness. Forgiveness is it's big. I think if, when you're offended and you hold it, especially as runners and the quieter ones, we know how to put that thing. We will hold that offense and put it here nicely and bag it and carry it for years if you want. That can be and that can be dangerous both for yourself and for the relationship. I think being able to forgive and get to talk about it, you know, in a sober and a nice way. Although for me, I think it's usually pulled out of me. I'm not usually. I tend to keep it on the shelf and then marinate and think about it and think. If it's really disturbing me, then it will come out. But usually it is demanded for. Then I report and answer accordingly. Yeah, but the second thing I think is knowing, accepting, and adjusting. No, you know, once you learn who your spouse is, I think that reduces how you will behave, because it is not a new thing. So your reaction versus when if it's a new thing that has happened and it has never happened before, I think there's the knowing your spouse, both in temperament wise, personality wise, just knowing their character kind of gives you a head start on what is going on. So that when it hits you, it won't hit you like it's hitting you for the first time. Then there's that acceptance. So know that my wife will fight the matatu man. So I will drive on the right lane and avoid the matatu to stick on. You know? Adjusting. This is how we are. This is how we accepting and adjusting to make the relationship work, to make the marriage work without it being this is what's going to be our issue every day for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
You can turn it, accept it, and move on.
By the way, let the records indicate before the Matatu Association comes looking for me, let the records indicate that I don't fight Matatu owners, Matatu drivers. Please, I am a pastor who is a very safe pastor. Before they start looking for
you only tell the bad Matatu drivers their opinion. That's it. Yeah?
Yes,
your opinion.
in community policing.
So interesting, but very good points there before we come to Ray and we just begin to wrap up, you know, some final comments on just dealing with conflict. I think what you said was crucial, Dawn, that we need to be easy to forgive. That in conflict, if we keep holding grudges, we're going to die before our day. And we need to be easily just let it go and realize we are all broken, and you can forgive your spouse and realize that they don't want to kill you. It's just they love you, and it's just a reality that we are all broken. And it's okay, you can deal with it. And so you deal with it that way. So forgive as much as you can. But number two, I think you have said, accept the person and then trust that they are going to change for the better. What we can change, the personality may not change, but our reaction to how things are can change. Instead of, and I'm not referring to you, Pastor Cynthia, instead of calling the matatu driver animal names, you can change and stop, start just praying for them and telling them, I know you become a better person. I know you don't do that. I'm just using that as an example. So we can change. Conflict should reveal what in us needs to change and realize we have the grace to change, that we have the choices to make, and we can be different people. I like what someone is saying, that this socks thing has been straining relationships since before time. It looks like it's been there. And there's someone else, Joy Chumba, talks about those men and women who never admit that they are wrong. Until Jesus returns. And that is unfortunate because then it's hard to deal with conflict until we admit that we are wrong. We need to be able to admit that we are wrong and deal with that. But yeah, very, very good comments made. So Ray, let's come to you and then you can just tell us some of the final comments with Evelyn as we come towards a close.
Yeah, so I think one other critical thing that I think I mentioned it earlier around one's background is something that we need to be aware, and that we also have to be aware that it doesn't just go away, because you could say by osmosis picked it up for what, the 20 or so years that we were at home. And that it's not just going to go away. So one has to be aware of it, because it will, you could say, bother you, because sometimes you're actually trying to deal with it. You're trying to deal with it and say, look, I don't want to be like either my mother or father on how he or she represented things. So on one hand, you're fighting it, but on the other hand, it can come out very easily. And precisely there is where sometimes the frustration comes in, and you feel like, whoa, I haven't really managed to deal with this. So I think that is very important. But otherwise, to be open to realize that also, we haven't had a lot of experience of, you could say, dealing with these issues as couples. I mean, the social support system before was very clear with uncles, aunties, and we've just come out of that. And generally at the moment, many of us are, well, you're on your own. Maybe we are getting the social support system from the church or from programs like this, your programs, our programs, and that we are novices in this world, and that what is critical is not to belittle these things and think, well, our parents turned out well, or we turned out well out of our parents' hands, so why should we bother making an effort to improve? precisely the social support system then had a lot of wisdom oozing out of grandfathers, grandmothers, aunties, uncles, and people whispered these things to you. So we need to be aware that that has changed. And therefore, we need to look for programs, areas that people can give us ideas so that we keep improving. Yeah. So I think that's all I would say. And thank you very much. Evelyn. You're on mute, Pastor.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So I was saying, I like what you say, because in relationships, whether it's marriage or even outside of marriage, you always need someone you can refer to. There are times you argue about things even with your boss, and the two of you are so holding to your opinions that nobody is listening. And you need another person to listen to both of you and be able to say, okay, both of you, this is where you're wrong. I think in marriage counseling, Cynthia and Dawn, you do that a lot. And of course, Evelyn and Raymond, you listen to people arguing and you can see the folly of what they're saying, but they can't listen to each other because they're in the heat of it. But because you are removed, then you are very objective. You can see and hear. And you can tell them, here. And I think when we can't agree on certain things, we decided that with my wife earlier on, that if we argue about something and we completely can't agree, then we're going to go to one of a few couples we respect. We'll argue before them, and then we'll let them tell us what is wrong with us. And they will help us very easily to resolve that. Maybe some word, Evelyn?
All right, so maybe for my final comment, I'd say that, well, conflicts, I think, and suppose are part of life. In some instances, more, others less, hopefully more of the less. And the encouraging thing about conflict is that in any relationship, whether it's personal or marital and even professional, whenever a conflict is resolved well, things get better. Things just get better. You never get worse. So it's always just to have the strength and the faith to try and resolve conflicts very well, because it is worth it. It is very worthwhile.
Okay. Very well. I want to ask Cynthia and Dawn to give a last words, as I also tell us about an event which is coming. But very good comments from many of you. Thank you for those of you who have been giving comments. Motindi Kakuti talks about the toilet seat conflict, which she doesn't understand, but I think so. Sometimes it's a conflict, very threatening conflict in some homes. Should it be left down or left up? And she says she really, but yeah, it's interesting how conflict can come out of almost nothing. I remember one of the conflicts we had a lot was when Sophie used to leave her handbag on top of the bed. And I would say, I don't want to come to bed and have to remove a handbag. Why don't you just put it away? And we would fight over that. And, but slowly you grow up, you mature and realize, well, that doesn't change the weather. You can put away and you get easy. But Cynthia.
Yeah.
Let me go first, and then she can elaborate on the event. Pastor Simon, so I have hope that the being half of the years, 12 years, so the handbag will still remain for how long? encourage me to hold on.
What we did eventually, we bought a hanger next to the bed, so that.
Oh, praise the Lord!
Okay, noted. Yeah, I think for me, what I would say is learn out of conflict, because one thing I realized is during conflict, I think I learn a lot in terms of her likes, her dislikes, and her reactions to him, and also myself. I think when I used to outburst, Jogo anaguruma, kind of a thing. I think she would be aware that, hey, that part I cannot touch, or I will approach with caution. So again, conflict is not necessarily just negative throughout, but I think it's part of growth, whereby you get to learn which path can I take, which one can I slow down, which one can I just run, and it should be looked at as part of growth in the relationship. You're learning each other, and therefore you know how to operate with each other as you go forward.
Amen. I like it. Conflict is about self-understanding and understanding the other person, and then using the opportunity to change for the better. Cynthia.
One of the things that I tell couples in our love clinics is, do you understand where you're going? Where you're going is going to determine the skills and the tools that you're going to take in your journey of marriage. When you are going somewhere, if you know that you are here for the long haul, then even how you plan and map out your marriage, including how you're going to fight, because I feel that conflict is part and parcel of our human perspective. So have you planned it out? Have you sat down and come up with a strategy plan for you as a couple? When we get to this stage in marriage, when children come and we have differences in terms of how we believe which school should be, have we come up with a contingency plan? Who are the people we are going to introduce into the relationship as far as mediators? Who are the people we trust? Please plan that as couples before conflict comes. I actually speak this and say that plan this even before you get married. Because let me tell you, at the heat of the matter, when things are hot, it will be very difficult to pick up the phone and call Pastor Simon. You're probably blue in the face, you're angry, but if you've already approached Pastor Simon and Pastor Sophie and say that, you know what, we would want you to be our mentor couple. We would want you to walk with us. This is where we are going. We are here for the long haul. You have already done 20. Us, we want to get at least there and beyond, you know, and they can tell you this is what worked. This is anybody who has traveled, anyone will give you, these are the best possible routes that will get you where you need to be. And that's a success plan. Now, just quickly, I wanted to tell you about something that we are doing over Easter on April 2nd to the 4th. It's something that has got to do with conflict. And I'm loving this conversation because what we do is that we have a couples bootcamp that we create experiences for couples that give them the ability to work out trust, to work out communication, to work out conflict. So we create experiences within this bootcamp, which is going to be happening in Naivasha on the Easter weekend. So we would want you to book. We will forward a flyer on this particular page so that you can actually come for this couples bootcamp. It's your experience, it's your ability to navigate this conversation in a very safe environment with facilitators and counselors that will help you navigate it together.
Yeah, I like that. Would love to be there. We'll check with Sophie and see whether that works. But please put up the flyer. Let us know. We would link it up on our page so that those who need to go there can go. I know Evelyn and Raymond, you run the family program, and I want to ask people just to check out your page as well. We'll connect it on our page so that those who would want to get involved. We're so grateful to all of you. And people, remember, conflict is a fact of life. It's what you do with it that makes you better or bitter. It could be about the toothpaste. It could be about the toilet seat. It could be about the handbag. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but use it as a way, as a revelation of values, of interests, of fears, and other things that need to be changed and transformed. And so let's use conflict to become better and to build our relationships for the good of ourselves and those around us. Raymond, you look like you wanted to say something. You're good?
No, thank you very much for inviting us, and the audience has had an interesting
Okay. Well, thank you
experience.
very
Yeah.
much. It's been wonderful. I've laughed myself a lot, and I'm ready to sleep. And Evelyn, I didn't even know you're that interesting. You can be funny as well. So thank you guys. I've really enjoyed this. Dawn and Raymond, I think we need a men's conference. We need to compare notes.
Yeah.
And discuss some strategies of running. Anyway, good night to everyone. It's been a good conversation. Let me just say a quick prayer and then we'll call it a night. Lord Almighty, we thank you for the things we've talked about. Our desire is to see our relationships become better. Help us to understand that we're broken people and that conflict reveals who we really are and what we are dealing with. And it's an opportunity not to attack the other person, but to deal with us and become better and to pray for one another so that eventually we'll be maturer and we will show more of love, grace, and truth towards each other. Thank you for our conversations in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you and have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Okay. We should do this again soon.
Yes.